What's going on, everybody? Windows Media Player is being a jerk and it's deciding to not respond. So while it figures out what it wants to do with its life, I'm just going to set up the restream on watchitwork.com. Everyone's doing well on this Friday, feeling good, enjoying the end of a long work week maybe for some people. Okay, with that, the Watch Me Work site should be set up. I'm just gonna pop out my chat windows. Whoops! Sorry, guys. Someone else's stream here was playing some music. Just switch scenes here, start the stream feed. And I'll pop out this chat here. Strangely, my Windows Media Player doesn't want to play music. What's up with that? Am I gonna have to, like, task manager this? Just close. Oh gosh. That might be why. Windows Media Player. And if I double click, it should play a playlist, right? Maybe. Okay, looks like it's working now. Please let me know about the audio levels of the stream's music. Definitely want to make sure I'm not being, drowned out. Right, so yesterday I was working on the inventory, sort of perfecting it. I'll show you where we left off, and I'll comment and sort of go over how that was set up. And then we'll proceed to set up the shop systems, like I was talking about yesterday. But anyways, so we have an accurate form of item stacking. I'm just going to pick up these items. Also, when we pick up items, we cue the visual changes on our character. In this case, it's just these canteen elements. We can see them on Maya's hips. So if we go into our items, they're all stacked as in the order we pick them up. We can use the triangle button and sort them. Pretty simple. We can also use and discard, but not all items are usable. But for instance, we can, if we only had a 5-slot pack and we're at capacity, we could discard 2 alloys, or we can discard stacks, basically. And it works wonderfully, right? Between the E-canteens, yeah, we can discard those as well. And you can see our character's appearance has been updated to reflect that. Also, worth noting is we added some item functionality. This damage cube here applies damage to our HP, which you can see on the green gauge. And if we jump into here, we can use our energy canteen, and we can see the description text says it has 2 charges of 2. And when we hit use, it disables it from being used because we need to be at a deficit of life, of HP rather. And if we get out of here, we're healed. How about that? It's pretty neat, right? Okay. Those are the updated changes. I'm just going to go through and comment them. Well, comment my work. And what that means is just sort of creating comment boxes so we know quickly at a glance what's happening. This function here is our use item function. It is actually what's being called on our item menu. If we go into here, we can see if we use the button, sorry, if we use an item, we eventually toggle a use item function on the main character, which is right where we were. We'll close the eCanteen and let's comment this out. So, I guess in order, switches execution based on item being used, called from widget underscore item menu. Nothing overly complex at play there. Over here we have, selections for the eCanteen. Excuse me. We can create another comment here and, consumes eCanteen charge, whoops, and restores HP. The play sound 2D, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. Comment, what we're doing here is creating a notify for the player. I guess, dash feedback that it has been executed. So we can save and compile this. Close my task manager. So let's see here. We want to now close this function and comment or anything else that is necessary. This debug string was just to just make sure our functions are firing, so I'll just delete that. Add to inventory didn't get changed at all too much. It's quite similar to remove from inventory, which we'll go over. I should duplicate it from that. So yeah, like you can see here, basically, oops, item removal as desired. That's all that's doing. Basically, on the function input, we determine how many items we want to remove, and then we remove them. We have a reference to that item struct, and then we, drive the interaction for discarding items, which is a function for updating the visuals, where we set get item to false, and that's how we toggle the disappearance of the canteens on our character. Pretty simple. If we hop over to our item menu, hopping over to our item menu, we have maybe a little bit of commenting to do. Just want to try and make this a little bit neater. This basically resets focus, or I guess we should say updates inventory and resets focus. Depending on the item that we're executing, we may want to end up routing into here. Certain items, if you use them, they become consumed. which we would just reroute through here for those items. Cool, I think we're ready to proceed. I'm just going to look into my notebook here. I made some design plans for the store widgets. We also did have some old store widgets that we could work off of. Where are we here? Okay. Kind of similar to our current item widget. That might provide a better starting point. However, oh, hey Kratos. Your question, do I use a behavior tree for AI or do you make your own? We went through a change. Initially we were using just blueprints to kind of script instructions, but we have since switched to behavior trees. I'm not too familiar with behavior trees myself, but I believe they can do things that the normal blueprints would have some difficulty with. Anyhow, we can close the item. We can close the item notify, or the widget notify, and the inventory button, most likely. What we want to set up now is a store. We can probably get rid of our damage cube, and I'm just going to grab another actor here from our city level. One of these storefronts should do right, so I guess the easiest one would be the junk shop. I want to say it would be the junk shop. I'll just stick that in here. So you have a storefront just sort of sticking out of the wall there. Yeah, we can leave that barrel there. I don't really care. Okay, so right now, as I mentioned, we're in the middle of rehauling our user interface to work with the gamepad. So we have this sort of, check, notify that shows up when we approach certain objects, things like this mailbox also. The first step is, well, we want to be able to launch into the widget from here. So what we're going to do is, let's open this up, see what's going on in here. Interestingly, the junk shop variable has a whole bunch of instructions. Kind of bizarrely, interact test 01 is the parent class. Now we can take a look at that as well. So this is driving the notify showing up, and it would also execute an event here based on the interaction we're setting. However, the start interaction is a bunch of dialogues, and I think the idea is, well, currently anyways, that was sort of a temporary setup where we could excuse me. It was a temporary setup where we could set up a series of dialogue pages wherein we could open that up and kind of talk to the actor, get a description box that says something like, oh, this is a junk shop, they sell a variety of items, or whatever. So we're going to kind of overwrite that. That was sort of like a proxy setup. So coming down here, let's go to the status item menu. We have shops, and we have a junk shop widget already. I want to say that's what we should be using. If we open it up, and this is quite old, and so there probably are broken references in here. There are none, but you can see it's a pretty basic menu where we have an option to buy, sell, and refine. That kind of doesn't really meet our needs right now. Or I guess anymore, I should say. But the idea was we could go into this menu, and this guy would basically, not this guy, but we could use this menu, excuse me, to sort of navigate into the sub widgets, I guess, where we could either buy or sell. And I think we had crafting at one point we were experimenting with, but the design no longer really called for a crafting system in a very large form. Sort of dialed it back and made it more of a requisitions type deal, where it just basically scans your system, your inventory for the required items, and deems if you have them or not. It's kind of a simpler way, but with a simpler result as well. Alrighty, so looking at our junk shop menu, I want to check this out and sort of redesign it to be the base of what we need for all of our shop menus. But you know what? The design is working. I mean, it's not a broken widget. The compile is green. We're good to go. We should be able to launch this. And I want to launch it from here, our junk shop actor. We can actually close the interaction test. That should be... I'm going to close the parent interact actor. I don't think we need it. But if we go right into here, we should just be able to launch right in. And I think I can replace this with... Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Unreal. Let me check you out. Hey, Julio. How's it going? Are you enjoying your Friday? We'll definitely check this out. Okay, so we're kind of gonna just delete this stuff, or at least break it for now. We don't really have a need for it. We do, however, want to set up a print string, and we'll just call it the launch shop widget. I spelled it right. Sweet. Oh, you've had a long week, eh, Julio? Launch shop widget. That is actually fine for now. What we do want to do is re-enable basically our interaction from our player character. I'm actually going to debug against this over here on my other screen. I'll move my chat down here. And we'll just hop into game view. So, yeah, we're able to go to and from the store. If we, I'll Alt-tab here to set up my debug filter, and basically see where this is firing. It appears that our... Whoops, excuse me. It appears that our actors are working correctly in relation to each other, but that it may be an input issue. So what I will do is just double check our inputs and our project settings. And scroll down here to inputs. Check out our action mappings, and we have interact. It's set to none right now, which is absolutely why we're not getting anything. On PC, the controls would be space bar, and we'll add one more for gamepad. Well, I would use open. Anyways, for gamepad it would be face button bottom, so our X button. Now if we close this, we should get our print string. Yep, look at that. It worked. Launch shop widget. So bring this over. This fired through, and we basically got this string to fire from our parent class. And if we look at our parent class without changing anything, you can see that it's looking for blueprint interface, interact, action, event, which gets called from our main character right here. So basically, we input the action, we check that we're not in this alternate mode for carrying objects, but we check to make sure that we're not already interacting and that this is true. This may seem redundant, but it's essentially to, well, you know what it was, I should say. It was in place because previously we were driving all the menus sort of in real time, and we needed to use the X button to, or I guess the mouse click at that time, to advance the dialogue screens, things like that. So we needed to, in some cases, we needed to, once we're interacting, we didn't want to fire this through, but we still wanted to capture this input from the parent class. Anyways, this should work for what we're trying to do. Let's just jump to our shopping actor widget here and let's construct our very crude old needing to be updated widget. So we'll create widget. We don't need this print string anymore. We will, oh my god, let's get rid of all of this. Don't really need that anymore. And let's construct this to read, well, not to read, but I guess we want to pull from here. We want to add to viewport. And the class we want to add is our widget underscore junk shop. Okay, and from here, I believe, yeah, we'll call an end interaction, which should, I want to say it should, let's see how I have to handle this. We probably will need to create a reference of this widget to this actor so that we can call this end event. Basically, if we don't call an end event, our character will be locked, because when we're in an interaction, whether it's talking to an NPC or an actor, in this case like the storefront, we want to prevent character input for things like mobility and sort of lock them into just controlling the menu, not their character. I did, Julio. I did answer Kratos' question. Yeah, I just told him, you know, I don't know too much about behavior tree, all that much, but that's what we're using. And I believe the behavior tree is able to do much more advanced, you know, instructions rather than sticking to doing it with blueprints only. That's the best I can do. If he's still in chat and he like responds, feel free to chime in and let him know. That's definitely your area of expertise. We don't need this right here, really. I do want to keep it for now. Maybe just off to the side. Let's get in here and launch that widget. Cool. So the widget's opened up. We have no control over it, but that's something we're going to add right now. So returning back to our widget, we need to configure this guy up in terms of design and functionality. So we're going to kind of overhaul it a little bit. Let's see here. Also, sorry about that, my screen's a little dirty. I was kind of confused by what was being showed on the, you know, on my monitor. So this is sort of our standard setup. Before we roll up our sleeves and get in here to this widget, I just want to quickly use the washroom, and that will actually allow me to think probably more effectively in terms of getting work done and stuff like that. So please excuse me, I'll be right back, maybe like, I don't know, like a minute. Alrighty. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back, though. Oh, I did not know that, Julio. Very cool. I'm a big fan of not having things on tick as much as possible. I think that's the way to go. Anyhow, for this menu, let's get into designing it. A whole bunch of elements I don't really like. A size box containing these buttons. Why? I don't really know. Let's kind of start from the ground up, I guess. I'll leave everything on screen. For the character avatar, I don't know why it's like totally white. There should be a placeholder here. Let's quickly grab, I think Floyd exists in here. I guess not. Maybe Junk Shop. Oh, that's strange. I thought he existed inside of the world. To go to avatars. Oh yeah, we got nothing. That's cool. Whatever. Let's just put Vance there. It doesn't really matter. Cool. He runs a shop and he's extra thin for some reason. Whatever. Just so we can actually see through that giant white block. Yeah, this is the background. How awesome was this design? Anyways, such a hater of our own work. Okay, so one of the first things we need to add is a. Let's drop this down here so we can access our panels. Let's grab a. You know what? Let's start pulling widgets from, or sorry, the canvas elements from other widgets, which is going to be a way faster way to work. And the item menu is the most logical one, just because it revolves around items, things of that nature. So I want to grab this dialog box, border details. We can copy and paste directly from widget to widget. It's super cool. Sorry, excuse me. Paste. Yeah, here we are. And why it's invisible. Oh, oops. We do not want to do that. Actually, we copied the wrong one. Yeah, we want to copy this in its entirety, and we want to paste it into our canvas panel. That looks a lot better. I don't know what was happening with that last one. In terms of grabbing this guy, there we go. It's kind of finicky. So we basically need some sort of, oh my gosh, I guess the easiest way, let's re-anchor this top right. What I'm thinking of using this block for here is sort of, we'll adjust sizes and everything after. I'm just sort of making the composition a little bit. What we want to do is set up a I believe there's a way to sort of orient the direction of which way this thing scales at, I think. It may be under, it's probably something I'll have to Google later. I think a quick Google search will explain it. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm just sort of positioning this out so we can get kind of like a feel for the menu's layout. I have my little notebook here in front of me where I sketched out sort of the plan of how this widget is going to be positioned. Okay, so the next element, we probably could, yeah, as a base, we could just sort of reuse this. However, I'm just going to name these differently. This is basically going to be our, the border for our money info, I guess you could say. And this, block here is basically going to be our shop info. Shop info. So it's probably, in terms of anchoring, it can stay top left. That's where it's going to sit, and we can get rid of, let's see, this hierarchy. How should we break this down? Yeah, let's expand this out a little bit. The text is going to be quite huge. For now, I actually want to replace this with its child. Just sort of, we don't need this block here either. Size box is good. Vertical box, do we need it? Yes, we do need it. But do we need two? Strangely, I don't think so. Let's replace this with its child, and now we have a shop info with a background color. We can probably grab our darker color set. I do believe it's saved here. Yep. And apply something like this, and we have two text boxes here. One should read out and say, So here is where maybe I could have made my notes a little more detailed. Okay, I get it. I'm gonna have to appreciate my past self's work here. Yeah, so you'd have like quite chunky text, similar to probably the size of our item menu. Let's move it out here. Yeah, a font size similar to this. This is 112, which is pretty huge. But maybe, I mean, as a test, we'll just dump that there. Oh, it's huge, and if we make it bold, even huger. Basically, we just want to get which type of shop is this. And let's make use of our size box and allow it to fit. Size box, we could make use of some heavier padding as well. This is probably way huger than we need it to be. We also don't need two text boxes in here, or it doesn't also have to be as complex. But let's just put down some values. I don't know, just add some numbers. Yeah, we'll just say players 100,000 mallet, the rich. I do believe we can pull this whole horizontal box. Let's copy and paste that actually into this vertical box. It's temporarily, so we have some sort of readout. Yeah, I don't think it has to be that large once we have that in here. Let's size box it, make it shorter. It's ultimately probably gonna be this kind of size once we get rid of, you know, like, I think it's pretty obvious what this is if you have our money symbol here. Let's get rid of that and just bump this size up a little bit for 64. This logo. That's really going to annoy me. I definitely should look up how to offset that from the opposite side. Might be just way too huge. Like, way too huge. But we'll see. Um, the cool thing is nothing is really set in stone. Let's grab I do want to wrap this with a overlay, and title name. Oh, whoops. This should say overlay shop info, and this border should be store type. Actually, title name is fine, and let's copy this and paste it into our overlay. And we can see it's positioned on top in a really confusing manner. I just want to title this as title detail. And we probably want to offset this, not have it right on top. It's actually going to go underneath this other one. In terms of padding, I think that's how we're going to control the offset. We definitely want from the top something pretty large. It's close, 150, probably 170. You know, probably just 200. Yeah. So it's not obstructing the text, but it is overlaid on the border. In terms of, let's try a 48. And this would say, the detail title would say something like, Floyd's, in this case, it's Floyd's Junk Shop. Alright, let's pull this over to the other side. And create a little bit more breathing room here. This is going to have to... Yep, that's better. Okay. And if we offset this from the left, what do we have? Okay. Ideally, I want this shop container to be applicable for every single type of store, and then we can change this text to be whatever we need it to, depending on what store the player's looking at. Because of that, and we're dealing with this offset, I don't want to make things a little too I don't want a situation where things are just increasing and increasing because maybe one shop title has a super long detailed text, and and now it's really awkward in the menu because now this is offset really far over. Perhaps we want to just keep this at 0. I keep this centered. I don't like centered though. I really do like it when it's offset slightly. Yeah, let's go 400 or maybe 350. In terms of shop titles, if I'm just thinking of off the top of my head, all different types of stores, I don't think that we're going to have too many that are going to be much longer than this. You just don't want a situation where this is offset all the way over here. That might look a little bit too jarring. And I just want to adjust this. Yeah, let's go with the even 400. That should be cool. And now this whole element can end. We can have that with a set animation where we bring in both and offset one, which can be pretty cool using our animations here. Outside of that, no, let's just bring this up a hair, probably 180. We could even do something, more playful, and you could have it sort of dynamic. We could do things like we could shear these. You know what? I don't like that idea. But we could angle them, depending if we want to add like a lot of flair. I've used that with widget animations in the past as well, where we could have things, angle in as they animate, which looks pretty cool. Floyd's junk. It really is Floyd's junk. Align the two P's to the right. Are you thinking like this? I don't mind it, but I do think we need some... Actually, it's fine. We don't need to add extra padding. We already have a pretty generous amount. But if that is the case, I do think don't really need to have it so far out. Interesting. Just testing how these expand and grow to hold more text. Size to content. Oh, that's going to be very difficult, Julio, to align them. I mean, not very difficult, but it's going to take some time. Time I'd rather not spend on stream figuring out what setting would do that to align the piece perfectly together. It's also going to depend, because these will be driven by variables for different shops, it's going to be unlikely that they'll be aligned on every single shop. So I'd rather have them intentionally misaligned than barely aligned on each one being slightly off from each other. Anywho, let's grab our scroll box here, because this is what we're going to be using to populate the stores. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We need to have our selection inputs for what we had initially. This menu, which was just labeled as size box. Yeah, we can probably just reset these. This is so huge. Let's take a look how things are situated when we launch this menu from Endgame. Yeah, so it opens like this, and yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, that text for your money is freaking huge. It doesn't need to be that big. We can probably get away with halving it like we had previously. What I would like to do also is size it to fit our content. Which is set to true right now. In terms of our overrides, yeah. So real quick now, if we were to have another horizontal box inside of here, it should grow, right? Beautiful. Okay, that's what we need. For now, I'm just going to leave it empty. I just have future plans for that. If I keep that justification and it's aligned, changing the text wouldn't matter. Let's see here. So I think 380s or no, way off. Let's put 0. So hold on, if we keep this text, whoops. So we just increase the padding on this side, I believe will get us the result. Wait, isn't this... Okay. But that's not exactly what I want. Or you know what, let's just not use an overlay at all. Yeah, we can't replace that because we have it inserted here. Let's just pull this out for now. And let's replace with child. And I think we can wrap it with possibly a horizontal box. Oh, whoops, didn't mean to do that. If we wrap this with a horizontal box, it should... Okay, cool. And then we dump our detail title back in here. But we totally don't want this to be like that at all. You kind of want it like way thinner, or not as tall. I mean. Uh-oh, how did that happen? As far as the vertical box goes, I don't think we need it. Justify it left, and very bizarre. Anyhow, yeah, we definitely want this to sit on one line. Justification should be fine. In any case, let's just build up some functionality here. Replacing these, we shouldn't really need and we can keep it using a size box. That's fine. But the only buttons, we should be switching these to borders. So I'll replace with a border, and apparently I can't. Strangely, I can't. Let me just wrap this with a border. Wrap it with a border, and then replace this with that border. That's annoying. I can replace it with border. Okay, that's way easier. Replace with border, and replace with border. Color and opacity. Let's just set this to invisible. sorry, want to lower the alpha. But you know what, we don't have to keep it invisible. Let's just make it a really lame gray. I don't know, a dark gray would look better. And regarding the reason why that text turned white, I think by default they had inherit checked in, so they just became white when the border became white. So we'll just make the text just black for now. And we don't need a refine button either. All we need is these two and the size box. We can sort of leave them as is for now. This is basically button border cell. Let's expose it as a variable and bordered by so inside of here we have our construct. Wait, where's our construct? Don't even have one. My gosh. Okay. We have event construct. From this point here, what we need to do is actually, before we get into that, I just want to turn off our character avatar's visibility. We set it to hidden so it doesn't come up. It's a little distracting. On construct, we want to let's print string here for now as design initialize, and that's where we're going to set all of our texts, I believe. Set up text / title info. And on destruct, event destruct called, main junk. That's actually fine. We'll leave that as is. From here, let's shove this over and grab our grab the base logic from our item menu here. We probably need to sequence that large. Not here anyway. Let's grab these. Actually, we don't need that here either. We only have two options at the most. Buying and selling, and some stores would launch right into the buy section, because not all stores will allow you to sell your junk, except the junk shop is that exception. In most cases, some stores will buy specific items from you. Anyhow, let's grab event tick And what we want here is a new integer. You probably can just steal this and call it button index. If you've been following along these other development videos, you kind of know the drill here. Oh geez, this here is very very crude. This is our old setup. I kind of don't like how that. I don't like it anymore at all. Considering our new setup is far superior. I'm just making some space here. Yep, and we're gonna just grab this. I'll pull that cursor noise over here and bring back up a design initialize to this side. So now we want to, let's see. Oh, what happened to my event tick? Oh, it's over here. Well, I feel like a goof. Yeah, we want this stuff over in on our widget for the shop, not for and we already have our button index, so that's cool. We're gonna route these like this, and you know what, let's just pull these okay. Yeah, D-pad down, we want to go here, D-pad up, we want to go here. This isn't really used anymore, it's actually going to be buy and sell. Now then, in our inventory button, our focused inventory button, you can get rid of that. It doesn't really, it's not really applicable. And we want to use our in terms of this, checking for inputs, and then we are checking if we're already at that index position, because we don't want to be advancing and scrolling upwards or downwards if we're already at that location. Alright. That should be fine like that. From here, we actually want to, oops, set it at 1. What we do want to do is sort of use this similar type of logic as what we have here. Right, changed focus button state. And we're changing that based on our button index. Focused color. This actually isn't necessary either, and we can grab our borders and have them like so. The references take because they're both of the same canvas type. We'll just link them all in. So the unchecked color is actually this gray here instead of transparent, and our focused color, let's just make it a red for now. The junk shop's color is actually green, but I don't have the codes on hand right now, but we can make the design changes later. Let's just continue making this base functionality. The last check we want to have here is, well, for now, we want to add a check for, you know, are we going backwards? Should be face button right. So we can grab this whole block, this part. You know what, I actually want to grab this too. I think initialize delay would be really good on our shop menus. Just gonna slide these guys further down. Is the back button clicked? And face button right is currently the back button. If you wanted to set this up a little bit better, it would also include the left alt. You know what? Remove these pins. And what we want to do is, well, we want to remove from parent, but you know, we don't want to display this. We kind of want to kill this widget, but there's one thing we want to do in between here, and that's sort of on our we don't need this. We want to call this end interaction of our class end interaction on our interact parent class. So, well, I guess the first step of what we would do is we want to be able to set a reference to that. So if I right click, the easiest way to do this would be to cast to actor underscore shopping alley junk shop and promote this to a variable, and then we'll just say you know, actor reference. Or, you know what, excuse me. No, we don't want to do that. We actually want to cast to the interact tier 1 class, because that is the parent. Because we want this to this widget to universally work on all of our shop interfaces, I think. So let's set this up to work with set item, promote to variable. And from here we have our actor reference. We can delete it here. We don't want to set it on this at all. But we do want to compile, so it's all in our database. So this wants to be connected. And over here, when we spawn the widget, is where we want to create our reference. So actor reference, we want to set the actor reference to self. Question underscore widget. That is not. Oh, excuse me, no. Yeah, that was correct. Yeah, obviously we don't want to set a reference to an actor. Yeah, anyways. That is perfect. So from here we can save and compile. And basically when it's constructed, we already have a reference to that actor. And from that actor, before we remove from parent, before we destroy this widget, we actually just want to call that end interaction. And I believe now that this should grant our player character the ability to return from its initial. How can I say this? It'll allow the character to regain its initial functionality, like mobility, and we can resume play instead of being frozen in that interaction. I do want to create a delay here. Probably, 0.2 is actually fine, and we want to call that initialized delay. And let's save and compile and see where we are here. Oh, just noticed your question, Kratos. Do I prefer BP or BT? If that's directed at Julio, I'm sure he'll chime in if you give him enough time. I believe he may be watching at work, so you have to be a little patient. From my perspective, yeah, I prefer what will work better and what's less expensive, which is behavior tree. But I'm sure Julio can give you a more detailed so let's hop in here. We have our items, we have our indexes working well, we have our focus. If we hit circle, we're good to go. We have our full functionality. How neat is that? Now we can roll. There's like no more. There's like no forward momentum or forward movement on that dodge. It's kind of like might as well roll in place. That has to be adjusted. Anyways, this is cool. we have the base functionality of our shop menu working. From here we could execute which menu we want to launch into. Do you want to buy items? Do you want to sell items? Pretty sweet. I do want to, this design pains me, I do want to kind of jazz it up and apply the same kind of treatment as we have to the pause menu. Maybe not as elaborate in terms of animation, but in terms of blurring out the game screen and adding some appropriate sound effects. Kind of like we have this subtle blur that comes in and out, and also animating out the player HUD, I think is a great touch. Okay, so let's close out of here. And let's return to our menu here. Really happy that this is working as intended. Happy that the parent classes already have that inherited functionality. So the next thing we want to check for is well, to be honest, it is sort of our proceed button. Right? Depending on where we are, we want to execute into those those menus, those deeper menus, in which case we could kind of reuse some of these notes. However, we probably want to route this in a similar way. I don't think we need the second pin. You can remove it. Excuse me. And what we do want is was input key pressed. Actually, no, we don't want that at all. We want face button bottom. Right? That makes sense. We want that confirm. And we can apply this retrievable delay for kind of keeping things from getting too crazy. What we do want is, well, we should have a back sound effect. Right, sound effect back and sound effect confirm. But you want to grab those two. Yeah, set those up like so. Opposite. Yeah, set it up like this, get that confirm noise, and we actually again want to switch based on this parameter. So whatever we're focused on, we execute the appropriate command. Let's see here. In terms of color, the junk shop is, oh, I guess even just temporary could make it a little more visually pleasing. The junk shop's colors are, you know, this kind of like repeated green, I guess. It's definitely a cool shade of green, more on the blue side of things. It's fairly dark. We can bump up the saturation. yeah, let's just use this as a placeholder. And then what we want to do is actually want to do is change this depending on which button was selected, and we want to kind of, even if it's for an instant, just to provide that color, that feedback. So I'd increase this a little bit darker, and then we would execute which widget we're opening. Windows 10 crashed. You know what? I've been having some weird issues with Windows 10 also, where it crashes. It's kind of annoying, to put it mildly. When do you experience your crashes, Kratos? I'm curious. I'm curious if we're being affected by the same issue. For me, I get this blue screen where it wants to give me the error information with the sad face that it tries to do, but it kind of freezes during that display too. Like you can't even really get through it. Very bizarre. Okay, so we have this click. What we also want to do is on construct, we want to apply an initial focus, because that is actually whoops, excuse me. We want to be here. Like, where are all my notes? I was in the wrong widget, or in the wrong blueprint. Okay, so from here, the initial focus will be applied to this guy. Kind of bizarre. We actually want to probably do it through a sequence. Sequence where we can sort of, yeah. Right on, right on, right on. Okay. Let's get in here and see how that is. Actually, real quick, I think we forgot to add our cursor sound effects. Like cursor noise. Yep, we want to do it like that. Actually, we want to be back here. We don't want to play a cursor noise on the initial focus. So we will route it like so. Save, compile, and let's jump in there and see what we get from our shop. So we have our shop, and if we click it, yeah, we get our you know our confirmed choice. Focus 1, focus 2, that's cool. So this now should be kind of ready to give this. How can I phrase it? It should be ready for going into the deeper menus for, you know, the actual buying and selling of items. One thing I do want to do, however, is, let's see here, this is on exit and closing menus. I do want to create our blur widget and animate the HUD out as well. These are all done on the player character. We don't want to do it on every single interaction. We have something we have to call on our junk shop on our actor, excuse me. I'm just gonna change the song. Okay. Let's grab this and let's bring this into our actor here. Basically, before we create our menu, we definitely want to set up our blur, and we have a HUD reference variable, which in all honesty, we'll just have to cast to PGB main. It's our main character class. Get player character, and just get the HUD reference from here, and plug these in like so. Yeah, we want to create our blur and animate the HUD out. And as soon as that's complete, we want to create our actual widget. As we were doing before. And on our interaction here, we want to, I believe, we can just, whoops, gosh, it's so tall. From here, we should just be able to animate our elements back in. And we have a delay here. I just want to see what the delay was for. Oh, it was for this, so we can just get rid of it. We're not missing anything critical, I don't think. Now if we come into here, yeah, we get our awesome blur effect, except it won't go away. Yeah, strangely. Let's see why that is. We are calling our event destruct, and then we're playing animation on our we're playing the reverse, and we are blurring out. Maybe that delay was necessary. Target is blur out. On our blur widget, if I quickly find it, when we call event blur out, yeah, we remove from parent, and it already has a delay built in. That should work just fine. Very curious as to why that's not blurring out. So if we jump into our game view here and we pause, it's pretty much perfect. And if we come here, yeah, we get in, and when we get out, we have no HUD and no. So that's a little bizarre. I don't think that's going to do it, but I'm curious. It's almost as if this isn't being called. I'm going to check the... For our junk shop, if we exit, we remove from parent, and we end this interaction. If we take a look at... Let's just jump here. Yeah, look, this dialog box destruct, which, to be frank, doesn't really make sense. We want to hook this up. Actually, that's a lot. A dialog box destruct does work. Many of the other classes do reference it. It is kind of necessary. I get it. A lot of the proxy buildings are using dialog boxes. But it's not necessary. Let's hop in here. Now this should work. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. Beautiful. That's kind of funny. We still have our mouse, enabled mouse. But yeah, it's working correctly. We just got to turn off our make mouse visible and all of those functions. I want to say that's done on construct of our widget, but clearly it's not. Lock character function, freeze player. Very interesting. We have to go in here. A lot of this stuff was built a while ago, and since we've been applying this gamepad feature update, a lot of it may no longer be necessary. Let's save all and take a look at our deeper menus of our junk shop. This is actually going to be renamed to something like shop initialize or shop front, and then we'll actually have like a buy menu that we should, I want to say, we should be able to populate based on the actor that's initializing it. Anyhow, in the buy menu, what do we got here? Pretty simple. We have a whole bunch of mouse-driven buttons here. Context-sensitive text. And our scroll box and the buy up in orange. Thinking how we want to lay this out. It may be in our best interest just to create a new widget based off a duplicate off of our current junk shop one. I think that might be the best course of action, given how much reworking that would be required to make it match that design. The idea is, yeah, and these have broken references too. The idea is launching from one menu to the other. So if you're in your store menu, it's going to be similar to yeah, this item menu, for example, where this item menu and key item menu are both two different widgets that they kind of, well, they do animate seamlessly between each other. And we kind of wanted to have that sort of feel where the elements' positions are going to change with regards to our like our actual store user interface. You know, the money's always going to be up there, the shop signs are going to be the same. One thing we do need to add, though, is our command inputs. Let's grab our border commands and bring them over to our junk shop interface. I also want to blur the background neutral, not in a hue for blue or green. I want to reserve the themed colored menus for each character's respective pause menu. Shops should be kind of neutral to them. Or they can use green and blue too, but in terms of blur, I don't think so. I think a neutral blur would look just fine. Okay, so inside of here we want to paste our commands, and there they are up top. We should just be able to zero these out, I think, and there we go. And we can eliminate what we don't need. L1, R1, no. Sort, no. Confirm and back, yes, we're keeping those. And just before we duplicate, just kind of make things as visually sound as possible, I do want to adjust this between, you know, imagine, if you will, this is our menu for shopping. Something similar to this. I moved the detail title out on the right just because I was wondering, hey, is there enough space, or is there enough you know, will this be enough space for our scroll box to populate? And I think with certainty, this is quite a large amount of items to see on screen. Because with the scroll box, it doesn't really matter. But we should strive to establish this. I do like how it was underneath, to be honest. I thought it was like really neat. However, I think we're gonna replace this with we're gonna make this its own element. title main and the title detail are both going to be separate elements, and I think that'll actually allow them to be animated kind of, whoops, don't want to delete that. We want to replace with child. No, what I was saying was I think it'll allow the intro animations for the shop menu widgets to be controlled to a greater degree. It should be easier. And now we can use this size to content, and I think we'll actually get a really cool result from it. Width override, nope. Replace this, replace with child. Yeah, that looks a lot more, looks better anyways. If we position this off to the right, I think Julio was mentioning a setup similar to this, where we have things offset, kind of, in line like this. But I want this to be like a thin, I don't want to exceed one line, I don't want a text wrap. So that option should resolve that issue. Same with this, we don't want auto wrap on that either. So let's find the controls and overlay it kind of like this and like this, I believe. And in the background, well, our actual widget will show up here for shopping. Our scroll box, I mean. Kind of similar to this. I would like it to show up behind this overlay. If we're going to talk in layers, these, you know, the two signs and the two corner elements for your controls and your money should be almost on a more forward plane, and the other elements would be behind it in terms of a Z order, which isn't hard to set up at all. But I definitely do want to set this up it would be kind of like this. We can offset it. I actually do want the text a lot smaller. What do we have here, 32? I'm more in, mind of keeping it within that range, and we can have a really cool kind of offset. And in terms of animation, we could animate it in sequence, like really quick, of course, but sort of like a 1-2. And then, you can select where you want to go in terms of the shop. Let's make this hidden for now. It's sort of just a placeholder. Now let's set up the launching of those other menus. And from here, we can actually leverage more of our existing functions. Pretty much this exactly. This code will be correct. In theory, we'll have to set up a few custom events, but that ain't nothing but a thing. Oh Jesus! Okay, grab this guy. Move it over here, keep things in line where possible. Let's create a bit of space. We don't need any of these What we do want is we want to add a custom event. I will call it, open. We'll do the buy menu first. Open buy widget. And here we have our animations that we play, which we'll set up the cosmetics after the functionality. We have a confirm sound effect. We delay for the animation length. And then we remove this from parent, and we immediately create the desired menu. For now, we're going to leave that as is. And we set the data as needed. So that shouldn't be much of an issue. Alright, so, I mean, in any case, I believe, yeah, let's just do a print string here. Cell, menu, launch. And from here we can just, open our buy widget, call that function, play the exit animation, we'll make it, and then in item menu, that's kind of void boolean, we don't need that anymore. Let's save and compile. So what to do next? The next steps are, well, we're gonna have to replace this. I don't believe it'll be a good foundation, so probably gonna delete that widget, and let's rename this. Shop launch. What do we want to rename it to? Shop initialize, shop. Yeah, it's not shop front. Whoops. Front. And then we want to have a shop buy and sell. And what we probably want to do is, because we want to test these and build them dynamically, we probably should test them against each other as we can. So what shop do I want to get? I want to get the gadget store. Here, this one. We can test against both of these going forward. Let's save our level layout. Hides current widget. Alrighty, I think that will be it for this afternoon stream. It's getting to that lunchtime that I would like to take. Lunch break, excuse me. Anyhow, yeah, guys, thanks for watching for another development stream. I'll probably end up doing another night stream like I did last night. You know, sometimes I am prone to staying up late and doing some game dev stuff. In the meantime, I'm going to continue working on these shop menus. We'll build up the functionality and then get into some loose design work. Hopefully we can make sure and develop these menus in a sort of dynamic manner so that they're quickly adaptable, and you know, things like inventory is programmable based on the actor that's creating them. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. We appreciate the likes and subs. We're still on our goal, you know, trying to get to 100 subscribers. We want to get that custom URL, and we appreciate all the support you guys have given us so far. So, I'll see you guys next stream. Bye.